this is the place for me. I don't need to finish college. I need to hang out here. I became a college dropout. Then I needed to survive and started as a dishwasher. Yeah, I had a limited amount of money at that point in time, but I also had developed a good amount of friends and that sort of thing. And so we all pulled in around 1 million baht. Yeah, it was 9 million baht in total to get into the first subway.
Well, hello there, Internet. It's Pete here from Thairish Times. What's the story? I hope you're keeping well in January 2023 and all that jazz. Anyway, today we have an interview for you with a gentleman named Greg, who's going to tell us his whole life story, basically, how he started off as a dishwasher back in America to becoming a serial entrepreneur in Bangkok, Thailand. It's a fascinating story from Greg. Really glad he told it. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, leave me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe to the channel. All those things that really do help me out, you know, and in this YouTube game that I'm in. So I'm rambling now. Let's go meet Greg and hear his story. Cheers. All right. So Greg, you started off at 19 years old as a dishwasher in a kitchen, and now you are...
Well, how did you know that? You're a brilliant researcher.
I've done my research.
Wow.
And then you moved on to to be an extremely successful entrepreneur in Bangkok, Thailand. Today, I'd like you to tell kind of that story, because it is basically, I mean, you started from nothing to a lot of something. So tell us about, like, let's start off at your early life, your beginnings at 19 years old. Like, how did you get into the restaurant business? Why did you decide to work in a kitchen? Did you have a choice? Talk about that period of your life.
Yeah, I needed a job. Actually, I think I was maybe 20, because I would have been a sophomore in college. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I was 20 at that time. But, you know, I fell in love. I grew up in a very cold climate in the United States, in the middle of the country. And so when I went down to Florida for a football game, wow, I couldn't believe it. People wearing shorts in December. When I first saw it, I started laughing hysterically because I'd never dreamed that somebody could actually do that, right? And I said, this is the place for me. I don't need to finish college. I need to hang out here. And so I became a college dropout, and then I needed to survive and started as a dishwasher. Yeah.
And then how did you progress then? You know, you started off as a dishwasher in Florida, and then what happened?
Then I go through different stages, you know. Then I went to the salad bar, and then I was an expediter, right? And then after that, I wanted to make more money, and there was a gas station near the restaurant, and I saw that I became kind of friends with the guy, and I saw that they closed at 10 o'clock, and he said that one of the requirements was that the franchise gas station needed to be open 24 hours. So then I became a gas station owner overnight, basically from 10 o'clock at night to 10 in the morning. Then it was my baby, you might say, you know. And so I hustled and got a lot of customers during midnight hours, you know, you might say. And I made so much per gallon, and then it started from there. One day, a guy with a really nice car came in, and started talking to him, and I says, God, you know, what kind of work do you do? You know, you see that on the internet, right? Where someone goes up to someone that I'm sure you've seen that, where they said, "Oh, what kind of work you do?" Right? I think that's how it started there.
Yeah.
But this was a long time ago. And so, well, I'm a broker. And then I became a broker of businesses between buyers and sellers. Big famous company called Sunbelt. And from there, goes all the way to, say, it would have been 9/11, 2001. Is I already had met someone, Thai lady, and wanted to move to Thailand, and fell in love at that time. And so we moved to Thailand, and I bought the franchise for Sunbelt. And so at that point in time is when I continued doing the brokerage, but it was the first time they ever heard of a business brokerage where it was bringing buyers and sellers of businesses together. But there's always human reasons why people want to sell. Yes, there's some crap businesses out there, but I'm always was looking for the people that were looking to sell for human reasons, such as a divorce or a partnership dispute or health or retirement. Good businesses that have been around for a while. And up to that point, there was nowhere for the people to really sell. They had their inner circle where they say, "Hey, do you want to buy a bakery or whatever?" And maybe their close friends was 10, 20, 30 people, right? Not everybody wants to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and bake bread. So the whole thing at that point in time is to increase your network. And that's where a business broker comes in, where they try to sell it confidential, because if your employees know, now all of a sudden they're looking for a job, and a business is all about your staff. And so it's very, very important to do it discreetly, and to market it wisely and to have a professional. And the business took off relatively pretty fast at that point in time.
How did you owning, is it 14 subways that you own? 14 locations?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So how did that come? Was it because you were a broker and you were able to see that there was an opportunity there?
So I went to a franchise show in Singapore where I was representing a number of franchises that wanted to get into Thailand. And usually, when a person is looking to buy a business, they're probably in their 40s or 45, and they're perfect franchise material, meaning a franchisor loves those type of people because they're usually in charge of 30 or 40 people, and they are able to be leaders. But on the other hand, they had gotten instructions for higher ups, right? So they were not owners, but they were mid managers. And so franchisors love those type of people. So they approach business brokers to find the perfect franchise for them, because it has to be the right fit. Usually, out of say 40 people that approach you to buy a business, 1 in 40 will actually do something. But in a franchise, it's actually 1 in 70, because now it's two people. Like the 1 in 40, the seller wants to sell. As long as you're breathing, you can write a check. He doesn't care who he sells to, right? For the most part. But the person that was the franchisor, they have to live with you. They have to put up with you, and so it has to be a right fit. And so many times they will say no, and then what happens is you have to try to find another one where both parties are agreeing to the partnership, right? And so it was around 1 in 70 would actually become a franchisee. And my job was to try to find franchisees, and then I would get paid for that. And so I was in Singapore, and I happened to see the booth Subway, and I was like, wow, I really miss Subway. There is no sandwich in Thailand. And ironically, I got back home, and I was reading a book, and it said, "Wow, you can get anything in Thailand, but not a good sandwich, right?" And then I was reading something else on the internet, and someone else was talking about things. I says, I think this would really do it. So I approached them, and I says, "Hey, let me try to find a franchisee for you." And I put a big ad in the newspaper, and I'll never forget this because there was 365 applicants, and exactly in the number of days in the year. And there was three at the end of the day after they filled out the application that decided to do it. But out of those three, none of them qualified. In other words, the franchisor said, no, it's not the right fit. They might be good people, but no, this is not for us. And at that point, I just said, well, I'll do it, you know? And we got into the Subway. Actually, I approached other friends because I already had Sunbelt, and I had a limited amount of money at that point in time. But I also had developed a good amount of friends and that sort of thing. And so we all put in around 1 million baht. Yeah, it was 9 million baht in total to get into the first Subway. And Then eventually, there was like, let's say 5 or 6 people over the course of the next 5 or 6 years. One person sold at 1.6, he invested 1 million, he got out at 1.6, and I got his share. And then there was another person at 2.4, dropped out, and I bought his share. And I think there was like 3 or 4 people got out at around 3.2. So everybody made money. And at that point in time, years had gone by, say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And so that's how I accumulated then up to I own 55.5% then of the subways. And there's one person that I've known for a long time. His name is Greg. He's still one of the shareholders. And then there's 2 other Thai people that are shareholders as well. Not that they have to be a shareholder, because normally in Thailand you have to have Thai partners. But in my particular case, because I'm American, I was able to do it under the Amity Treaty, where I can own 100%. But for the subway, I own 55%. The other people, they're all true investors as far as the 45%.
And to buy the other 13, you just was there a strategy just to make money off that one and then reinvest it, buy another one? Is that how it went?
So that's basically, as far as the shares, how I expanded to become the majority shareholder. But as far as the actual stores, it was all profits. Basically, one store was successful, then you can't, we always took the profits and then expanded the business. And so that's how we grew.
I'm very interested now because someone actually told me recently that Subway is a good franchise to buy into because of the low operating costs compared to other fast food stores, because you're not actually doing a lot of cooking. Like the food comes in, the veg is there, you're making a sandwich, you're not cooking, you're not making burgers, you're not making French fries. Is that true?
For a number of years, it was the cat's meow. In other words, we grew quite a bit, right? And the first couple of years when we did functions and that sort of thing, the kids would say Subway. It was just like rock stars going into a school. Kids missed it, and it was a great feeling. And I would say the last 5 years, margins have gotten really, really tight, and this is even before COVID, where the prices have not really gone up versus what cost of labor, cost of goods to buy. So the sales are higher, but so are expenses. And so definitely the profit is not the same as it was before, right? And so, yeah, I think that if you buy, it's all about location. And right now, a lot of the subways are doing really well in gas station, things that you don't really think of. And, it's a perfect sandwich. It's not that expensive, especially if you're on a trip. You go into a 7-Eleven, you're going to see a little slice of ham between two pieces of bread. And I don't know how much they get for that, 30 or 40 baht, right? But you can buy a 6-inch sub for not too much more than that, right? So at the end of the day, the concept works, but yeah, the prices have not really gone up compared to, and I've been to the subway convention in the United States, and I think that the franchises all would say, base for the most part, they made a lot more money, say 10 years ago than it is now, you know.
What about the brand that you did create, Sunrise Tacos? Tell us about that, its conception. How did the idea come about? How did you implement? How did you grow that business? Because that's been a very successful. And I mean, I think people watching this now, we've all probably been there as an expat in Bangkok. We've all gone in there, and so many people will probably know that you're the man behind it.
Yeah. So what happened is that we grew so fast as far as the subway that the rents are so high at many places. So we did a lot of co-branding with Coffee World or, a pizza place, anything to lower the cost. In other words, what we would have is like maybe a space that was 200 square meters, and we would have 100 square meters, and the other brand would have 100 square meters, or even much, much lower than that. And uh, sometimes we'd actually buy the other brand as far as the franchise. And I think at that time we had 16, 17 different locations of different things. And a number of my friends had said, "Hey, listen, you have so many different things. Why don't you do Mexican? What's the first thing you do when you get back in the United States?" I said, "Oh, yeah, eat Mexican." And so, I've always believed in the franchise system. And so I approached a number of franchisors at that time. And there was only one, it was called Taco Time, that was interested to expand to Thailand. So I flew out to Las Vegas. They're actually a little bit north of that. I forget exactly where they were, but it was a nice concept, but they wanted $100,000 just for the franchise fee for one location, right? And at the end of the day, I thought, I think I can do this. And so, yeah, I developed the brand myself, but that's how it came about. But I've always owned Sunrise Tacos 100% uh, as a foreigner, or 99.99%, because you have to have three shareholders, right? And so uh, when we started out, I found a location on Sukhumvit Soy 12, and it was only, I think, 15 or 20 square meters. I only had 7 seats. I remember that. So I invested around 1 million baht decorating the place. Maybe it was 800,000, something like that. And we were pretty successful after a month and a half when there was a big article in the Bangkok Post. But the first few days, worked pretty hard, and we only made 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, and that's not really worth it. But kept it going, and it just took off. Then, once that article came out in the Bangkok Post, that day we did 20,000, and the next day we did 30,000. And up to that point, the highest day had always just been 20,000 baht. So the market had started to go up as far as from 3,500 to where we had one day of 20,000. But now 20,000 was the baseline. And then all of a sudden that weekend it went to 50,000. So we grew very, very fast. And then it took off so fast that the Emporium had one of the owners had came and ate and said, "I want you to open up on Monday." I think this was a Friday. I said, "What? In 3 days you want me to open up?" And I said, "We have a golf tournament. In fact, that we have the catering event." It's impossible, right? But we did. We opened up on that Monday. They said, "We have all the equipment. We want you in. We're not saying, taking no." And so then we expanded to the Emporium. And then I think after that, it was Sion Paragon, and at Sion Paragon, there's a lot of richer Thais, high soul is what they're called here, and celebrities, and they really started liking the brand. And the foreigners, we had that market, and so you got to have a little bit of luck involved in the business, but it's all about your staff, right? And if your staff is not making the food right, they're not following systems, you're going to die.
I noticed a lot of your staff are Filipino as opposed to Thai. So I was just kind of curious as to the reason why you would go for a more Filipino staff. Is it the English, a bit level of English, or?
Yeah, because the foreigners expect a certain amount of English. My menu is like a time bomb. There are so many different options, and it's so easy to make a mistake. And if something's wrong, then some foreigners really can get upset over one little thing, right? And so it's very, very important to get it right. And we also work with a number of Burmese as well. And as far as the ties, we have a lot of ties because you have to have a certain amount of ties to get the work permit, for the Filipino. But we find that in the front line, that it's a lot easier to have as far as managers, Filipinos, and that's who you see. But there's a lot of ties that work really, really, really hard that are behind the scenes, that a lot of people don't talk to. and they rather that someone else does. But we're talking quite a long time ago too. Things have changed, as far as English skills level as well. We're going back all the way to 2007, so 15 years ago. I think that there's a lot more Thai speaking English now than say in 2007, right?
I remember you telling me a couple of months ago that we had a conversation and you said that the staff are the hardest part of doing business in Thailand. Can you explain more about that? Why would that be like one of the hardest elements of business?
One of the things I always did when I was talking to a business owner that was looking to sell their business, I always picked their brains, and I would always ask, "Hey, what was the hardest thing that you found in the last couple of years or 10 years, whenever you had the business?" And invariably, almost 100% of the time, they would say staff, finding good staff and keeping the staff. And it was so true. Your staff is what makes you. It if you don't have good staff, if they rebel and there's mutiny or whatever, I mean, it's a terrible thing. I've seen it where unfortunately some of the businesses had that. Unfortunately, I've never had that. I hope never do. But yeah, you have to have where they have passion and that they really care about the business. And a lot of people say, well, geez, they care about if they're getting 17,000 and someone offers them 1,000 baht more, they'll put their apron down and they'll walk across the street to get the extra 1,000 baht. Yes and no. I mean, for the most part, if they know that you are taking good care of them, that they're always going to have a job that is secure and they love working with you, they're going to stay. Sure, they might come to you and ask for a raise, but yeah, I love my staff, and hopefully, it's the feeling is mutual.
How about your management style? Have you had to adapt your management style for working and managing staff in Thailand and Asia compared to say the American management style is very upfront in your face. This is what I want. I
Yeah.
want it now. Did you have to change or did you just continue on as you were?
One of the things that I found out at first is you can't be blunt. And one of the things that I found at Sunbelt was if I said something to someone, they would go into the toilet and they would start crying. And I was like, I didn't even really say it. And, someone told me at that time, said, listen, my ex-boss, who was very powerful, would say something 10 times, 20 times more, and they would just stand there and take it. But it's much different than if a foreigner says it versus a Thai person. So they're very much more sensitive, right? So you have to be very careful, and you have to watch what you say. And so, yeah, over the years, I mean, it's 22 years now that yeah, I've learned to watch what I say, right? And bite your tongue. But yeah, definitely the first years, I'm a perfectionist, right? And so I want, especially if I tell somebody 5 times and it's really important, and I took the time to realize that there might be something that goes wrong the night before, or the day before, and I repeatedly said it, but yet what I said went out the wood, just went out the window. Yeah, I wasn't happy, when when they didn't follow instructions, and it still happens, right? But I have to just try to not be emotional about it.
I've seen people start businesses in Thailand and Bangkok, and I suppose other distractions ended up losing their focus. And like the nightlife, I've seen guys open businesses,
Sure.
drink too much, party too much, and not focus on their business and lose it all. Have you seen the same?
Well, of course. I mean, the advantage of being where you're bringing buyers and sellers of businesses together, you've seen something that's been very successful for 10, 15 years. Then all of a sudden, a person buys something where they just have to watch. I mean, They don't have to do anything essentially. The clock is moving, right? But they still seem to screwed it up. Uh, at the end of the day, it's still all about leaders, and you can't say the wrong thing, and yeah, you're the owner, but you can be penalized for that as well, right? It's a double-edged sword. If the business is successful, that's just that many more people that see you, that now have a greater chance of the business blowing up, per se, right? Like if nobody knows you and you do something stupid, then one or two people might have known about it. But if you have many customers and you have many clients, and then you always have to do the right thing. The boss is your your customers, your clients. And so yeah, if somebody just lets it go and they start going off on the nightlife and stuff, it can easily go the other way. It's not just a matter of collecting money and not looking at the business. That's just common sense, I think. But business is all about love, right? You got to love the business more than anything else. You got to love it more than nightlife. You have to love it. It has to be your first love. And then it's important to have a partner that has those same ambitions and the same goals, that's fighting with you and right there with you. And so I think that's very important, because if you get home and that person is fighting against that, you're working so many hours and all that, it's very, very stressful, you know. So you got the stress all day and then you get the stress at night. And so that happens with a number of people as well, uh, where their partner doesn't understand why that person's working so many hours.
I was just going to say, it probably may not be just about the money. It's more about the love, is it, for you?
Yeah, it's all about making other people happy, having the passion, and doing the best. It's kind of a scorecard, right? And you always want to improve.
So tell me about your other passion, helping people, right? Bangkok Community Help Foundation. You've literally helped thousands of people over the last 2 years. We've covered it here on the channel. Spent a day with you, I think back in June or July. We've had
Right.
Friso on here a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about the Bangkok Community Help Foundation. But like, we know how it started. Friso's told us, but what does it mean to you? Like, what does it mean, like, helping people? What does that mean for you? Why did you get involved and give up so much of your time to do it?
I mean, it's just like business, right? You have to have the passion. Um, I think the restaurant business is very similar to a foundation. Uh, you have to be willing to help people, right? Because actually, that's what you're doing. You're serving people the best you possibly can. Great food, great service, the whole works. And it has a lot to tie in. But now, on the other hand, you're not being rewarded like you are in the restaurant business. You're being rewarded with smiles. You're being rewarded with people that really, really need it. And so it's the happiness of seeing that you made a difference in someone's life. I think no money can ever equal the joy that you see, or when you help someone that's really in bad shape. Uh, yeah, you put on the table 1 million baht or that experience. Definitely, I would take the experience all day long. Because money, you can't eat it, right? I mean, yeah, sure, you can buy, but if you have enough, money, and you have enough everything that you possibly can, you can focus on other people. And yeah, I really, really enjoy it.
What are the future plans? Like, how's it? Is it you going to expand? What are you going to do in the future with it?
Well, we're still feeding the homeless. I mean, originally we thought that we were going to maybe stop, just like we stopped last year for the communities. Um, this would have been in 2021, because a lot of people were starting to get back into work, right? But yet we saw that there was a big demand for the homeless in May, June of this year. It would have been right around the end of April, in fact. And so that's when we started doing with the homeless. As far as the communities themselves, we were still doing a lot of COVID testing. We were still giving the survivor bags, but not as much as before. We were not taking the 3,000, 3,500, 4,000 meals on a daily basis. Now it's around 500. So this is going to continue. But one of the main things that I get really a lot of enjoyment out of is building houses. Uh, I think the big switch for me would have been in 2020 when there was a park which I was introduced to. It wasn't a park at that time, it was an actual garbage dump in this community where it was taller than me, the garbage, where the people were dumping all their garbage at the end of the every day. And it was rats and it was bad. But the kids, there's a school right next door, and the kids were walking home and they had to walk by it. And it was known in all the communities as one of the worst places. Well, turning that into a pocket park and having kids play with butterfly nets and paper airplanes and just having a fantastic time, turning it into something that was beautiful. Wow, that was the most amazing experience I've ever had. Uh, we changed literally so many kids' lives. Before they had to walk, when they're walking home, it was a very narrow sidewalk, and right next to it was a sewer, and that sewer was wide open. And so, we put the metal gates on so nobody could fall into the where the sewer was, because there was motorbikes that would go on the small little sidewalk. And so it was very, very crowded with the kids, with the motorbike zipping through. And so this saved, I'm sure, a lot of kids falling into a bad situation. But more importantly, the disease and all that was coming from this mound of garbage to turn it into a beautiful park. Wow, it's just amazing.
Do you remember a couple of months ago when I made that video with you and Free? So there was a man, a homeless gentleman, and he was on the road, and he
Right.
had a hole in his
Yeah.
stomach.
Right.
What has happened to him?
He's
He's still
still there. I mean, he's actually gotten a little bit better. He's not in as bad as shape. So it was a miracle, in that regards. So I never thought that he was going to make it. But yeah.
I thought he was surely gonna die.
Yeah, I know. I remember you being traumatized hours after that.
Oh, I couldn't get over that, man. I never seen that before in my life.
Yeah.
I was just shocked.
You couldn't get it out of your mind.
No, like, because I don't know what it is. Just an older gentleman, and he was in just a bad way, bad condition, and he was. I just thought that he's facing death, and my heart just
Yeah.
went out to him, and I was like, whoa,
Well,
yeah, yeah, it was tough. So I suppose there's only a couple of questions left. The question I like to ask people: any regrets in life? If you could go back and do anything differently, would you go back and do it, or would you just carry on the way it is?
that's a very good question. I should know that you had asked that. But because that's one of the questions I always would ask a business owner when they're looking to sell their business. Was there anything that you would do different? Right? In business, I don't think I would have any changes. I've done the best to my ability. No regrets. Yeah, definitely. I learned some things, but that's just part of the process, right? Um, I've always given it my all. I've always had the passion, so there's nothing I would have changed there. Um, you would think there'd be something I would regret. I think as far as family, you always need to, and I think that I'm much better with that, as far as taking time out and enjoy. I mean, during COVID time, I've not had the holidays, but I did in the last couple years before that. I would take a whole month off to go to Europe. I did that twice a year, and then work hard, play hard, as the song goes. And so during COVID, it's been, especially with the foundation, it's 16 to 18 hours, right? So, and I had to kind of slow down. I had the, medical situation in October where I had a blood clot. And so, that was kind of a wake up call, when you're in the hospital for a week and you're looking at there's a 30% fatality rate, and so you don't want to be in those odds, right? It's a lot worse than COVID. But unfortunately, I was able to get out of that, get out of the wheelchair, and I'm still working hard. But I'm aware of the situation, right? So I'm taking better care of myself.
Any advice for younger people that are starting off in business? If you give them any advice, what would you say to them?
Be prepared to work hard, to have passion, see the business through the customer or your client's eyes. When you walk through and vision what they're seeing, sit down at the table, or if you're in the restaurant business, and observe, you know, uh, be a customer, right? And see, what the service is like. And yeah, the moments that you have to sacrifice for your holidays, right? Which is crazy, you have to be prepared to give that up. And so a lot of people don't know, if they're going in the bakery business, like I said before, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Some people after 30 days of that say, this is not for me. Every day I have to go in and make bread, right? Uh, and yes, you can say you have staff that do it, right? Like I have a number of locations that are open 24 hours. I can't be there all the time, but you can micromanage and all that, right? But I think certain businesses, you have to be there, really hands on. And I think that you have to be prepared to give it your all, to love it more than anything else. And so if you're not prepared to do that, maybe business is not for you, right? It's not for everyone. Some people are great gardeners. I'm terrible at uh, plants and stuff. I love plants, but geez, you put that in front of me, it's not going to do well, right? And so we're all good at something, right? And just know what your strengths are. Some people are really good at business ownership and some are not, right? But and then I've always kind of felt empathy toward some business owners that work really, really hard, but they just didn't get that break in life. I from this distance, it seemed like everything was switched on, right? But they just didn't get that break. So I think that you just have to go on to the next venture. I was listening to someone last week and they said 8 out of 10 things that they do, they're not very successful at, but 2 out of the 10 they were very, very successful at. And so sometimes you have to toss in the towel if your business or your location is not doing so well and just move on to the next and not give up in that regards. If you really love business ownership, sometimes it was just bad luck, the location that you choose.
Well, Greg, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for doing it, and I'll be over in probably the summer, and I'll definitely be over to help you guys out in Bangkok Community Help Foundation.
Very good.
I'll see you guys again.
Wow.
You and
Looking
Frito.
forward to that. Okay, that's great.
All right, Greg,
Okay.
take it easy. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
And
Okay,
if you
take
know
care.
anyone else, Greg, I'm always looking for a good story.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. I'll give you a let you know. Okay?
Okay. Thanks,
Very good.
Greg. Take it
Good
easy.
talking to you.
Bye. See
Bye-bye
you.
now.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.